Hey there, welcome to the table. I want to introduce you to Legendary Kingdoms, The Valley of Bones by Oliver Hume. This is a solitaire book-based game. So you have to get your own dice, and you need some six-sided dice, and they give you some sheets in the book, or you can print it out from the website to track your characters. And this is like an old school style dungeon romp. Now, it has choose your own adventure mechanics all throughout. I think there's no way of avoiding that. The one thing that it doesn't have, at least not to my knowledge, is you don't need grid paper. The dungeons aren't going to be like that. In fact, this game really doesn't have dungeons in the classical sense, at least not that I've experienced so far. I played about a third of the way through and then decided I was ready to show you this. This game is several years old. There is a second it's a book one. Sorry for bumping the camera. There's a book one here. There is a second one, book two, which is Crown and Tower. And you don't have to play them in order, although they recommend it. Like, you could actually do Crown and Tower first and then go do this one. I think it would be wonky, but they do have some rules to help you do that. I'm going to try to answer your questions to determine if this is the game for you. The other thing I want to say right away is if you don't want to be spoiled on the story or anything, then get off my channel. I mean, I'm dead serious. We're going to spoil the snot out of this game. And I don't think I'm even ruining the experience if I do. And one of the reasons I'm doing this video is because I've looked at what everybody else did. And there's people who have covered this game, but they dance around because they don't want to ruin your day by spoiling it. I am going to ruin anybody's day who does not want to be spoiled on this. So if you've been looking for somebody to finally show you the content of the game instead of dancing around it, you're at the right spot. So now that that's out of the way, you got 5 seconds to get off my channel. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, they're off the channel. You start off as prisoners, and you're going to be in a gladiator arena. So we got to find a way to escape. That's going to be one of the first things that's going to be challenged with us. You start off as these lowly prisoners with nothing to your name, and you eventually can grow to having whole armies that you command. You can command armies in this game. I mean, it's a very epic scale game, which is different than just going into a dungeon and leveling up. And so I don't want to mislead you, because I love dungeon romps. This is not a dungeon romp. This is more of an adventure. And I can't express that enough. This is an adventure more than a dungeon romp. So I want you to understand that, because this could be why you don't like the game or don't want to get it. So there's some other games that I'm aware of, like D100. I've never played D100, so I can't comment to it too much. It seems like it's in a similar category. And then 4 Against Darkness, I have played that one. 4 Against Darkness is your dungeon romp with the hex paper. And so if that's what you're interested in, 4 Against Darkness is the appropriate choice. I like this way more than 4 Against Darkness, but it's largely because I think the characters and everything about leveling up and the skills, I just think everything's done better. And then 4 Against Darkness has the weirdest rules. But nothing against 4 Against Darkness. I own it, and it's not on my sell list. So anyways, I'm going to get all that out of the way, and let's talk about this game and whether or not it's right for you, and then some basic introduction, and then let's get rolling here. So first of all, it's by Spider-Mind Games. That's a British company, and if the name Oliver Hume didn't reveal that it was British, I don't know what would. But that's where you have to buy the game. I think you pretty much have to go to their website. I don't think you can get it on Amazon or at Target or anywhere else. International shipping is going to apply if you're not from Britain. And I can't remember the price of the game. I honestly can't. I think the book is somewhere around $30. It could be more. Please don't be upset with me if I misquoted it. Now, and as an alternative, you can buy a PDF. And so I have it here on my iPad. So it's an exact copy of the book. And in fact, I actually like it more than the book because I can, like, if I'm at 228 and I want to go to 500, I could just, bing, bing, bing. And look at that. I'm already at 517. And, I feel like I can flip through the pages quicker. And right there, boom, there's 500. It didn't take me long at all, right, to find 500. So their website sort of stinks. I mean, as much as I recommend this game to you, if this is the right game for you, the website stinks. And what I mean by that is, like, when you're trying to shop for, okay, I want to buy this book, there's like 12 ways to buy this book. One of them is just buy the book. And when you do, you get the PDF free with it. Another way, which is cheaper, is you can just buy the PDF. You do not have to buy the book. There's also another package where you can buy the book and then they give you dice and everything else, because the dice don't come with the game. You have to use your own dice. So there's a lot of options, but their website really stinks at explaining those options to you. It makes it seem like they only have like 2 packages, but there's really way more options. Like, for example, the PDF only option I found was very hidden. It was deep in the dark recesses of their website, and they're not like it's not at the forefront. They're trying to sell you the book and the packages, whereas the PDF only option is an option. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that when you go buy the book or the PDF only to save you a few bucks. Now, the PDF only is still going to be like something like 10 or 15 bucks. It's not going to be, if you think you're going to get a $5 game, you're not. Is it worth the 15 bucks? I don't know. That's subject. I don't know why people ask me questions like that. Do I think it was worth 15 bucks? Sure. I'm showing you a video telling you how excited I am about the game. I mean, what kind of stupid question is that? I mean, but people ask me that question and I don't understand. It gives me mental fits whenever people ask me questions. Should I buy this game? I am not your mother. I am not going to tell you whether or not to buy this game. So, but that's the kind of thing I run into, is people want me to tell them what to do. I am not telling you to do anything other than just sit back and enjoy the playthrough. And like I said, we're going to spoil the snot out of this. So let's dive in. What is Legendary Kingdoms Valley of Bones? How does this work? Well, as you already realized, it's a D6 game. Everything's D6 oriented. There's good and bad that comes with D6 games. I have a game, Dungeon Universalis, that's also a D6 game. That's different than D&D, which is a D20 game. Pros and cons come with both. Because obviously when you roll 20-sided die, there's 20 different outcomes that you can get. With D6, the outcomes are a lot tighter. So that means every single point that you add to your skills or whatever makes a big difference. Okay, so let's talk about this. It is a 4-character party game, and they give you a sheet from their website. It's also in the book, so you can have 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. Every character has fighting, stealth, lore, survival, and charisma. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 skills in the game. And then, of course, they're going to have their health, which we're going to track with poker chips. And they have armor. And then they can each carry 10 equipment. So 10, that's not including, that does include what you're wearing. It's got the classic rules. You can wear 1 armor, 1, you have 2 hands, everything else is just trinkets, that's extra. I don't know if there's a helmet that I'm sure, you can only wear 1 helmet. There are spell books, and you can have 6 spells in your spell book. The spells in this game are really wonky, and in the beginning of the game, it's a huge hindrance. I think even with the D&D, your mage is always the weakest guy in the party. In this, not only are they the weakest in the party, but you're like questioning whether or not it was worth even having one. I mean, I feel that way. But there's spells that you can learn that will damage entire armies. You heard that right. It'll damage entire armies. And so I think the spells do get really darn powerful. But we'll talk some more about them as we get into the rules. At first, though, they are a huge hindrance. You're going to really wish you didn't have a spellcaster. And we're probably going to have 2. now that I said that. That's pretty much it with the characters. Now, I know some people are going to ask, can I just solo it, like with one character? I don't recommend it. I think you need 4. I really do, because there's party checks in the game. And yeah, if you're soloing it, then you know, you're going to have a lot harder time passing the party checks. I just don't think that it's doable. I really think that managing 4 characters in this game is super easy to do and fun. And then on top of that, I get to carry 40 items with 4 characters. You're only going to get to carry 10 with 1. I just think you're going to have all kinds of issues. And then, of course, the spell thing. You know, in the beginning of the game, if you tried to solo as a spellcaster, I don't even think you would survive. I really don't. So with all that being said, I just recommend you create 4 characters. Now, this game has permadeath. If any of these characters die, they're dead forever. And if you've ever played Baldur's Gate, the video game, you can play, like, for example, Minsk and Boo are in the game, and you can have them as a character. Or you can just create your own character. Now, Baldur's Gate initially didn't let you create your own, but there was always a way you could do it. This game is the same way. You can create your own generic character. They give you some rules. You get so many points you can distribute around. You can customize your character to be exactly who you want them to be. Now, they do have characters that are pre-built in this game. And if you use the pre-built characters, then there's storylines and potentially romances. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the romances in these games. Legacy of Dragonholt by FFG was awful in that regard. But anyways, there is that. So you have, like I did specifically encounter, if you have this character in your party, go here. And so of the choose your own adventure choices, you had like maybe 4 choices. One of them was is if this person's in your party, go there. And what happened was is that person recognized who you were talking to. And they had a previous relationship with them. And so every character has like a vice. And then there's a story that's going to develop with those characters. So you're going to be missing out on all the story, just like in Baldur's Gate. If you didn't take Minsk and Boo with you, you wouldn't find out about the Space Hamster's adventures. This is the same way. You're not going to find out about the adventures of your characters. Now, one thing that I know I've contemplated is there's nothing to stop me from creating my own character and then just naming them the in-game character. So that way I get the best of both worlds. I create my own character, and then we still get all the story and everything. It's a solo game. Do it your way. Do what you want. The last thing is, like I said, permadeath. And if your characters die, including the named ones, they do give you the ability to create your own, and that's how you continue. Because you might be wondering, well, how do you continue your adventure? If your whole party wipes, you can create 4 new characters and then just continue. You know, how clean is that? You're going to be back to square one in terms of skills. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm not so sure is going to work out well. Personally speaking, as I play this through, I'm going to play this the way I would if the camera wasn't on. If I experience a permadeath, I'm retconning. I'm going backwards. I'm either going to make a different decision in the choose your own adventure tree, or I'm just going to re-roll the dice. I mean, it's what I do. It's my game. And when you play, it'll be your game. And if you want to play with permadeath, go for it. This guy put a lot of effort in to make permadeath a thing. I'm not real thrilled with it, but it's in there. And there's even like the possibility that when you hit certain scenes in the book, that if this character is dead, then this happens. I mean, it's pretty involved. Like I said, I'm going to spoil the snot out of this, but I'm not going to ruin it, because just the being in a prison, like, you know, we're going to start off in prison. I found 2 distinct ways to escape this prison that I'm aware of coming into this. And of course, when you start playing, you didn't even know about that, right? But I learned about 2 distinct ways. One of them, I was pure evil. The other one, I was being like super paladin righteous. And in both ways got me out of the dungeon. And I do give this guy credit. He comes up with some pretty cool options, and they're extremely different. Like being evil, I ended up getting the favor of certain characters. And I know here I am trying not to spoil it, but the city you start out in, the prince or the king or whatever, you earn his favor and you can go into his palace and chat with him. If I take the righteous path, we're trying to usurp that king. That king's an evil guy. We want him gone because the real queen has been exiled, and we discover her and we're trying to help her get back her throne. Completely different stories, right? You're either helping the king or you're trying to throw him out. So that's what we're in for here. And the other thing is let's say you help someone out, then they have this concept of these little codes. So A1, I don't know what it means, but it could be that I found the ring and gave it back to the princess. So the princess knows who I am and likes me. So I would have A1 checked. And so then later in the game, if I run into the princess, the Choose Your Own Adventure might say, if you have A1, and then I would look at this and say, oh, yes, I do. Then I get to go to some special page that I wouldn't get to go to if I did not have A1. So it manages things that way. And you can see here, there's a section for your armies. So you're going to actually be controlling whole armies. And you're going to have a fleet. And there's a battlefield. And there's different battlefield, formations. I mean, this game gets pretty epic. It's very ambitious, if you will. And I like that. I like that about the game. And that's why I wanted to show it. It's very different than 4 Against Darkness. There's enough room in the world for both. I think sometimes people feel like I got to choose one or the other. There's room for both. And I know I run into this a lot, but people will say, I only have budget to buy one. 4 Against Darkness is something like $10. This is like $15. And if you truly don't have the budget to buy both, you shouldn't buy either. And I'm going to go out on a limb and just say that. If you can't afford both of these games, which is $35 total, then I seriously recommend that you self-evaluate and not buy any. Because you're in a position where you need to get more skills, improve your job condition, improve your living condition, improve anything about your life. You shouldn't be playing games. This is a luxury. So, but people do that. They'll ask me, what if I can only have the budget for one, which one do I get? Dude, don't buy any. That's my answer. But I really think there's room in the world for both. So anyways, I hope I do a decent job of at least showing you whether this is right for you. Okay, now let's dive in. There are some rules. And I wrote them on this because having them on the book is too difficult, but we can go through the book real quick. It's easier to actually look at this. So here you can see there's 6 total books in the series. The first 2 you just saw, I showed them to you. This third one was on Kickstarter. I think it just ended yesterday. So these other 3 books don't exist at all. And this one won't exist until the Kickstarter gets printed. And it's going to be months before this book becomes available. So if you go to get the game, there's only 2 books to even get right now. And then, of course, you have a Kickstarter, which it's not too late, I'm sure, to get on for that. This is your map of the area. We're going to be starting here in Saltdad, not to ruin things for you, but that's where we're going to be, is here. And then everything here is travelable. And then this is the Legendary Kingdoms, the entire area. And, I don't even remember. We're in the Valley of Bones. I don't know where the Valley of Bones. Here you go. The Valley of Bones is here. So that little map that we just saw is this. And then there's a bigger world that he created. And then, of course, all the books are going to take you to the different areas. And that's what I'm trying to explain is you could actually do book 2 first and then come back here and do book 1 because I don't know if it's necessarily the same characters. In fact, let me check. I have the book in front of me right now. They look like the same characters, so that'll be interesting. And I do know that he tried to explain that just because you're popular here and lead armies, when you go here, they don't know who you are and they don't care. So you're sort of like starting over, and like you're eventually like you're getting like fame and fortune here, and then you're getting fame and fortune there, and like eventually you're going to get fame and fortune all throughout the map. That's sort of the idea. Okay, so this is the thing that I printed out, and then they go into, okay, what do you need? You just need D6s. You need a pencil, paper, whatever. You're going to create a party of 4, like it says, and then it's just explaining that certain characters can cast spells. And then here's the characters we get to choose from. And like I said, you can custom make your own. So while I have that up on the screen, if I go further in the book, oh, where are you? Oh, it might be at the back of the book. There's a way to create your own character, and it tells you how to do it and what the rules are. I just don't know where that is at the moment, but we'll find out. It says so. If you only Okay, so here's your character choices, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit and show you the pictures. So we have Sar Jessica Dane, and I'll let you read. I'm not going to read all this for you, but basically she's a knight. Then you have Lord Pt1, and he's your mage type character. All right, spellcaster. It says so right there. Now, the spellcasters always start with 6 health. The non-spellcasters start with 8. That's a general rule, even if you create your own character. And 5 is the max level you can start when you're creating a character. So the fact that she has 5 fighting, that's, near the top. So there you can see she's your paladin-like character. She has fighting and charisma. Those are her 2 big ones. Her stealth stinks, which makes sense. Her lore is decent, and her survival is not very good. Lord Pt1 has a lore of 5, which is your. You don't necessarily need intelligence, or it's like intelligence in this game. That's really what it is. It's the skills that magic users use. When it comes to skill checks and all the things that are in this game, all that matters is you need a character that's good at a skill. So, like, if you come across a pyramid and there's some ancient, script, somebody in your party needs to have lore to be able to read that script. So you want to have characters that are good at, different skills. When you're in combat, you don't use, well, actually you do use these skills. The skills are used in combat. So for example, a fighting skill of 5 means I'm going to roll 5 dice. And I hit on a 4, 5, or 6. That's a success. So every 4, 5, or 6 I roll does 1 damage to the enemies. So having a fighting skill of 5 means I'm going to get to roll 5 dice. His fighting skill of 1, you get the point. He's not going to do very well in combat. However, when he's casting spells, the spell might say, roll as many dice as your lore plus 2, or whatever. So you get the idea. This guy is a one-trick pony. He is all lore and nothing else. Tasha, and let me show you the pictures. So you got this little Tasha, and then Amelia Dane, which, by the way, is the stepsister of Sar Jessica Dane, in case you were wondering. So her stealth is 5. She's super stealth. Fighting 3, survival 3, charisma 3, lore a piddly 1. And then you have Amelia, who is a spellcaster, by the way. A little more well-rounded. Her lore stinks, but she's fighting 3, survival 3, stealth lore, charisma awful. She's not meant to be a nice person. Okay, so classically speaking, paladin, mage, thief, druid. Druid is the best way I could describe this one. Monk or samurai, and then bard. That's the way I would put it. Or maybe a rogue, which you might say, how's that different than a thief? I mean, he's your typical Millennium Falcon type person. Anyways, the Akihiro of Chalice has the highest survival skill of 5, and his fighting is 4. And then Brash has a stealth of 4, charisma of 5, and lore, fighting, survival. And then it explains what the different skills do. So you can see that you have fighting, stealth, lore, survival, charisma. They do get modified. So, but not like Folklore the Affliction style. I mean, you'll get things like where you're fighting, like if you're in an arena and you pay somebody like a weapon master, you can actually practice, and then your fighting is permanently increased by 1. And so before I go into all the different rules here, let's go through my summary that I created, because this might help now that you've seen that. And then, that'll help you to determine, what characters you would want for your party. First off, the carry limit is 10. If you hadn't noticed on the sheet, they had 10 equipment spots, but every person can carry 10 items, period. This is the part I want to call your attention to. The roll limit is 20 dice. So remember I told you that if you have a fighting skill of 5, you roll 5 dice. So at some point in the game, you're going to be able to roll 20 or more than 20. So just want you to put that in perspective. So your characters are going to grow. That's the cool thing about this game. You're not going to be stuck with a 5 fight, person that started the game, and then at the end of the book, they're still at 5 fight. That's not going to happen here. You cannot have copies of a spell. So if you learn like a fireball spell, you can't have because your spell book can hold 6 spells, you can't have 6 fireball spells. This is like your classic CRPG, Dungeon and Dragon. You have to memorize a spell, and then once you use a spell, you have to go rememorize it. And what's even worse in this game is you have to spend money to get it back. So apparently you need materials to get the spell back in your spell book. So technically speaking, the spell is always in your spell book, but you have to spend money to recharge it. And then recharge occurs at very special locations. It doesn't always occur anywhere you want. So I found this to be really annoying, especially the recharge and the money. In the beginning of the game, you have no money, so it's a very big deal. I think later on when you're commanding whole armies, this is probably not as big of a deal. But in the beginning, spellcasters are hugely, they drag you down. So anyways, your spellbook can hold 6 spells. Does the game have more than 6 spells? It absolutely does. In fact, it has so many spells that you're going to have to get rid of one to make room for another. And that makes it hard, because you're going to have to make some tough choices. And once you get rid of a spell, you can't get it back. So, and that's something I want to read again when we look into this. Because, let's say I did get rid of a spell and I decide I don't like it. Can I at least decide, okay, I'm going to make room for that other spell again and put it back in my spell book? I don't know. And I want to read the rules on what it says here before we start my next playthrough. As you can tell, in my playthrough that I didn't have to make those choices where I had to get rid of a spell and then wanted it back. So I'm a little fuzzy on that. So we'll look that up and we'll make sure we get that right. Speaking of which, there are skill checks in the game. I'm going to skip through this real quick. There's skill checks in the game, and there's a solo check where one character does the check, or there's a party check where it's 2. I understand there's 4 characters in the party. You would think all 4 get to do the party check, but that's not the case. If you do a party check, it's only 2 characters doing the check. So, again, let's say you have to, you're trying to unlock a door, and you're using agility or, stealth, and it's a party check. You would pick your 2 characters and you would add up both of their stealth skills, and then that's where you can't roll more than 20 dice. So some of this 20 dice it could be a party check where you're adding 2 characters together. So if one character has 10 and the other one has 12, you have to limit yourself to 20. Those other extra 2 dice are gone. Okay, so I skipped all this for a reason, because I wanted to get to this here. You can spend 5 skill, and it's just temporary for the purposes of the check. to reduce the difficulty by 1. So let's say you're doing a party check. It's a stealth check, and you need, I don't know, 7. And 7 successes is what it means. This is very FFG-like. If you've ever played Arkham or Mansions of Mad, like you need a certain number of successes in order for the test to pass. Eldritch Horror is the one I'm thinking of. This is a lot like Eldritch Horror. So let's say the skill is 7, and you have 22 dice, like I said. Well, you can roll 20 dice because you're limited to 20, and 7 of those need to succeed in order to pass. Well, what you can do is you can spend 5 of your skill, which means you're taking your 22 minus 5. So now, what is that, 17? So now you're going to get to roll 17 dice, but now you only need 6 because you reduced the difficulty by 1. So you took that 7 down to a 6. It could be theoretically helpful because let's say you had 30 skill and you're only allowed to do 20 dice, so 10 of that skill is going to get thrown away. Well, you might as well spend 5 skill to reduce the difficulty by 1. See what I mean? And you can spend another 5 skill to reduce it again. So it's a weird mechanic, but I just wanted to make sure you understood that. And like I said, when you're spending the skill, it's just for the purposes of getting through the skill check. You're not losing the skill points. You're just spending the skill points in a way to reduce the difficulty instead of rolling dice. Because the skills are going to use for one or the other. The skill points are either going to add dice to your roll, or you can use 5 of them to reduce the difficulty by 1. Those are your 2 choices. Sorry if I was long-winded with that. Next, there's an armor bonus that's cumulative. The weapon bonus is not. So here's what that means. I got armor that I'm wearing that gives me an armor plus 2. I have a shield that gives me armor plus 1. My total armor is 3. If I have a weapon that gives me fight plus 2, and then I have a something that gives me fight plus 1, my fight is still only plus 2. You just pick one of your items, and that's the only item. So your weapon bonuses are not cumulative. And I'm sorry, I have bad writing. If you have no weapon at all, you get a -1 penalty. So if you have a fight skill of 5 and you're fighting barehanded, you only get to roll 4 dice. It's not just the armor roll. Any roll, a 4, 5, or 6 is a success. If you're fighting, a 4, 5, or 6 hits. If you're doing a skill check, a 4, 5, or 6 counts as a success. In the armor situation, a 4, 5, or 6 blocks a hit on you. And you can never roll more dice than hits. That's a pretty popular thing they do. FFG does that a lot. But if I have 5 armor, I can block up to 5 hits. But I have to roll 5 dice to do that. However, if I only got hit 3 times, I'm only going to get to roll 3 dice. I don't get to roll 5 dice just because I have 5 armor. So that's how that works. That's all I'm trying to explain there. And that's what this line here is. And that's it. That's all I wrote for my my hints. Everything else is so self-explanatory, it's not even funny. But let's keep going, and we'll see if there's anything here that jumps out. So here they're talking about the skill checks, which I explained to you, maybe in my own long-winded way. Health, of course, you go to 0, you die. You don't want that to happen. There's no way back from death, right here. The party member is lost forever. You can usually take equipment from a dead party member unless the book tells you otherwise. So with combat, you're going to see situations where it's going to look like this. So the goblin is going to have a 4 dice. He gets to roll, and he's going to hit you if he rolls a 5 or a better. And then when you roll your dice, you can hit the goblin if you roll 4 or better. Actually, I take that back. Remember I told you that a 4, 5, or 6 is a hit? That's not always true. It depends on what the defense is of the creature. And then they have health. So I would need to get 16 hits to kill both of these guys. That's pretty typical. We always go first. And when I say we always go first, all 4 characters get to attack before they do. And then when they attack, the cool part about this game is the goblin, if it's a whole group of goblins, that number there is all you roll to represent the entire group. So everything is like streamlined. So at most I'm going to roll 10 dice to resolve their combat. I'm going to roll 4, and then take all the 5 or mores, and those get hit applied. I'm going to roll 6 dice, and all the 4 or more get applied. That's the way it works. So whenever they do a hit, who do they hit? We get to choose. We absolutely get to choose who they hit. So it's our choice every single time. But once we choose, we have to, of course, live with it. Armor saves, I explained that a little bit already. Casting spells in combat. Instead of making an attack, you would cast a spell instead. Automatic damage is that a portion of your attacks are unstoppable. So without even rolling dice, they already have 2 hits on you. And that's what that means. And it's saying that in book 1, you're not really going to see that. So it's like a concept that's there, but and he's right, I haven't seen it yet. But like if you fail a skill check, you might suffer a damage. And just so you know, armor only works in combat. So if you suffer a damage failing a skill check, armor is not going to help you. There are different types of spells that they're explaining here. None of it's worth talking about. I told you about charging and draining spells. Every spell has a recharge cost. When you first discover or learn a spell, it's charged, ready to be cast. Then it becomes drained. Then each spell has a recharge cost. And then, of course, it tells you when you can do that. Discovering new spells. They crop up in the strangest of places, and they are absolutely right about that. So keep an eye out. In fact, you can't even predict when you're going to get spells in this game. It's not very... if your spell book is full and you discover a new spell you really want, you can rub out an old spell to make room for a new one. You cannot learn the same spell more than once, so no copies. The part it's not addressing is, okay, I rubbed out a spell to make room for the new one. Can I rub out the new one to make room for the one I previously had? I'm house ruling that yes, that is how it's intended. I think once you discover a new spell, it just becomes part of a master list of spells, and then you can pick and choose as you want. But like he said, you have to rub out a spell to make room, and then of course there's a recharge fee, to get the new charge. When you discover a new spell, your first charge is free, but after that you got to pay. And it's talking about your equipment, and so yeah, you could have a fight skill of 5, but it's modified to a 6 because the iron short sword gives you a +1. And then this is where it explains that the armor is cumulative, but the weapons are not. And then, can you drop an item? Of course you can. It's gone forever. And then, of course, silver coins are the currency. There is a vault that you can use to store items and equipment and coins that you want to keep safe so they don't get stolen from you, or if you die you don't lose them. There's even a spell called Magic Cabinet which lets you access it at any time. And then I explained a little bit about the codes. There are romances. When a party member starts to feel romantic affection, they'll gain a heart. We can note it. The more hearts they have, the more attracted they are. And then there's other rules. When to buy a ship or whatever, but it says you deal with it as you play the game, which is wonderful because how many minutes are we in? We're 38 minutes in and we haven't started playing the game yet. Now, here's your starting spell list in case you're curious. Animal speech, and then it costs 50 silver to recharge, if you'll notice that. Armor of Heaven, Ice Bolt, and then these are combat spells. Poison Stream, Unfailing Strike, Wolf Spirit, and Magic Cabinet. And then it says you're ready to begin your adventure. So that's literally it. That's all they give you to start. And so what we have to do is we have to go back and create a character. But like I told you, you could build your own character. And I just want to talk about that real quick. At the very end of this book, there's advanced rules. So making your own party member is one of them. So you can have them as a hired replacement, or you just have a specific vision of what kind of party you want to do. And then, of course, the disadvantages are that you miss out on all the story plots and stuff. So you have to decide if they're a spellcaster or not. If they're not a spellcaster, they get 15 points they can distribute amongst those 5 skills. However you want. You have to have at least 1 point in each skill. So basically you're given 10 points because you got to put 1 point in each skill. And then they get 8 health. And then you can go no higher than 5. The spellcaster, on the other hand, starts with 11 points. Minus 5 is 6 points. And then the same rules, and they only get 6 health. And then, but you do get to choose 3 spells. And if we choose the pre-built characters, we get 3 spells for them as well. Focus skill checks are the thing I was explaining to you, where you can spend 5 points to reduce the class by 1. So that was an advanced rule that I explained to you. And then combat focus is the same way. You can lower the defense of somebody the same way by sacrificing 5 combat dice. Then they have a glossary, which I never used yet. And then, of course, at the very end are some sketches and the handy-dandy map. All right, so the pages are nice and glossy. So for a paperback, it's really nice. I do like it. The party members are like so. Now, I can tell you that I literally chose the first 4 characters. And those are the ones I like. And those are the ones we're going to go with. And I'll explain why. I'm not trying to convince you to do the same. Because you may have interest in the lore of Brash and Akihiro of Chalice. But let me just explain a few things. You want a character that's going to be the best at a certain skill. So if you ever have to solo a skill, that character is the best at soloing it, right? Then the next thing you want is a character that's a jack of all trades, where there are 3 at every skill. Because if you do a party one, it's the best 2 characters. And usually the jack of all trades is the second best character that you have in your party. Brash here is your charisma guy. He's charisma and stealth. So if you choose him, you're not choosing Tasha or Sar Jessica Dane, because she's also got a high charisma, and Tasha has the high stealth. But and then Tasha here is truly your jack of all trades. Look at her. She has 5 stealth, 3, 3, 3, and a 1. So lore is the only thing that she's lacking. Brash, on the other hand, has some 2s. Has a 2 and a 1, and his 2 is in fighting, which, at least in the beginning of the game, there's an awful lot of fighting that goes on in this game. So he's a decent character, but he's not decent where it matters. So and I'm not trying to pick on him, because I think if you did pick him, it's going to be fine. You're not picking some of those other characters as a result, because you only get to pick 4, so you have to eliminate 2 somehow, and so he could help you eliminate 2 other characters. My issue is Sar Jessica Dane is not easy to eliminate because her fight is really good. However, the Akihiro of Chalice has an awesome fight. Look right there, he's got a 4. So maybe if you choose Brash, you're also going to choose this guy. And look at him, his survival is 5. That's really good. And his stealth is complementary to his stealth. So these 2 together actually are, I think, very good candidates to be in a party. But let's talk about why I chose the ones I did. I made a cardinal decision. I wanted both spellcasters. So no matter what, I had this spellcaster and this one. So that locked me into some choices. And here is what those were. So this guy has lore, but hardly anything else. He is the most worthless character at the beginning of the game. Lord T1 is truly the most awful character, period, at the beginning of the game. And so I will warn you right now, you have to baby him along. And I'm hoping that the investment will pay off later, because he's going to learn some powerful spells. But in the beginning, you're just, he's a wasted slot. You're basically playing a 3-part player game. There's only 3 characters in the party. The only time he becomes useful is, oh, Lord Chuck, yeah, I'm going to wake up from my nap and help you. I mean, that's what Lord Tiquan is. So I can highly see somebody saying, nope, I'm not going to deal with Lord Tiquan. And then your earlier game is actually going to get easier because you might actually be able to add Brash or that swordsman, and he'll actually contribute something to the battle. Okay, but he's one of them. And then the other one is Amelia Pastain, who, as you can see, is not good at anything. But her fighting is a 3, so she at least contributes a little bit to the battle, way more than Brash. Well, 1 more than Brash. Her survival is 3, and that, unfortunately, is the highest survival I'm going to get. And that's a problem. A very big problem, but I do have a solution for it, and I studied this a lot more than you might think to get to this conclusion. Charisma is awful, but the stealth and lore, okay. Now, Tasha has the stealth covered, big time. Her fighting is still a 3, so at minimum, I'm rolling 3 dice with 3 of my characters. It's just Tiquan who's pulling the rear. But here you can see, again, very well balanced. So if she's going to be supporting anybody like a survival check, I have 2 3s. So together they're at least going to roll 6 dice for a survival check. Her charisma is a 3, so she'll be able to support Sarah Jessica Dane, which we'll talk about in a second. The one thing you may notice is that the lore is 5 on Tiquan, and this is a 1, and that's a 2. So the lore is really bad on these other 2 characters. However, Sarah Jessica Dane, being the knight that she is, the noble knight, her lore is a 3, which is pretty decent. And so that's why she complements Lord Tiquan. If you want Lord Tiquan, you have to have Sarah Jessica Dane, at least in my mind, because you need a second character so they can do a party lore check. Everything's about skill checks for me, like in games like this. You want to make sure you can pass your skill checks. And her fighting is the best in the game, and fighting is used often. Like, to me, you have to make a very convincing argument not to choose Sarah Jessica Dane. It's really hard to not choose her. Although if you choose the monk guy, his fighting is only 1 lower at 4. That's a really good, like, if you don't choose her, you have to choose the monk. I mean, it's one or the other. And then, of course, you might be wondering, well, hey, that monk has a 4 fight, she has a 5 fight, those 2 together would be awesome. And my answer is you're right, because his survival is a 5 on the monk. And so if you go back over to look at them again, the monk is a 5 for survival. His stealth is even a 3. There's a very strong argument that, he should be in the game with her. And if you're playing your game, then, please, make that consideration. My thing was I wanted both spellcasters, if you'll remember. And so this one is taking the monk's spot. Now, why is it that I'm not worried about survival? Because that's the one skill I don't have a strong presence in. And if you'll let me just flip the pages here and get to the spell section, we get to choose 3 spells in the game, which are here. And one of them is Wolf Spirit. You summon the spirit of the wolf to help guide you from danger. Cast the spell when you fail a survival check. You get 3 automatic successes. So, remember I told you that she's your druid type character? Her survival is only a 3, but if she has Wolf Spirit, the spell, she can automatically pass 3 survival checks. So she's just as good as the monk, if not better. The drawback is you have to pay 75 silver to recharge that spell. So that's the reason I chose who I did. I wanted the spellcasters. I made her the druid type person, and so she's going to have Wolf Spirit. And then she's also going to have Animal Speech, which has a nasty 50 silver recharge as well. She's going to be able to communicate with the secret language of animals. I thought that would be really cool. It's going to open up some opportunities that we're not going to get if you just take straight up fighty characters. So I'm going to take you through her, because we've been talking about her and why I chose her. So let's do that. So I'm going to flip back over. So what we have to do is we have to put her in to the book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the spellcasters on the right next to their spell book, because this spell book is on the right and the spellcasters are on the right. And I use pens. I know you're supposed to use pencil, and this is where I'm very bad. And I apologize, but I do. If anything, I'll go reprint another copy of this and and just transfer everything over if I have to. So so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Amelia. I can't write on this material. Let's use the other book. We're going to use the other book to write on. Okay. Amelia. Pass. Dane. Right, that's who she is. And then I'm looking over there. Her fighting is 3. And I'm writing way over on the left side because this is my style. Because if this ever gets upgraded, I'm going to cross it out and write the new number next to it. Because I'm using a pen, so I need to keep space so I can write more. I know, I should just get a pencil and eraser. I truly don't even own one. So that's my issue. Stealth is 2. Lore is 2. Survival is 3. Charisma is 1. And her health will be 6. And so that will be represented with poker chips. So we have a 5 and a 1. So that'll be her health. Now, I have different set of poker chips. For the money. So the one that has the deck of cards on it and the fancier poker chips, those ones will be used for the money. So this will be used for health points. This will be used for money. So Amelia has 6 health points because she's a spellcaster. And then we have to also pick 3 spells for her, and only 3. So you may have already seen, I wanted to give her Wolf Spirit. So off camera, I'm writing in Wolf Spirit. And the recharge cost is 75, so I'm writing that in as well. And the one thing that I highly advise that you do is you need to write down what exactly does the spell do. And especially like when you start playing the game, somewhere like, let's say we get to entry 500, it'll say, you just learned the new Fireball, right? Fireball does, 5d6 damage to a whole group of enemies. Well, if you don't write that down, and then you go to cast Fireball, like, an hour later or whatever, and you first of all, you don't even remember that it was on entry 500. Like, it's a nightmare to go find the Fireball scalps back in. So you need to write it down. So what I do is I have a notebook. So on that notebook, I'm going to write down every spell, and it'll be my master spell list. And it'll say what each spell does. So for example, I'm going to be writing Wolf Spirit. And then I'm going to put in parentheses 75 because that's the recharge. And then I need to get the, I have to make sure I have the rules down. So when can it happen? It can happen in an adventure. So that's one of the keys, right? You can't use it in combat, for example. And then it says when failed survival check. So you can wait until you fail a survival check to do it. That's clearly important. Then what do you get for it? You gain 3 automatic successes. And it says for this check only. I don't know if that's really that important. That's common sense to me. for this check only. Okay, so I got this spell list that I started, and Wolf Spirit is the first one. So I'm writing it into my sheet, and I'm going to write all the spells that I have on here, and it's just going to be here for my reference. So I don't have to flip the book back and figure out, okay, what does Wolf Spirit do? So the next spell I'm going to do for her is Animal Speech, and that's fulfills the druid type of character, right? So Animal Speech, and that is 50 silver. And so I'm writing it over on the other one as well. $50. It can also only be used in an adventure. And then text specific cast. And remember, I said I'm going to spoil the snot out of this game. I encountered a monkey, and I was able to speak with the monkey. And it helped me to get through a jungle. Like it knew a path that I wasn't aware of, and I was sort of lost. So that was an example where the animal speech saved my bacon. The interesting thing is that I then encountered situations where I needed to use it again, but if you don't find a place to recharge it, you can't. So then the last thing I need to do is, what is the third spell? And it's a very interesting one because I don't know, even after playing this once, what's the best one. So it's a tough choice between Magic Cabinet, which lets you, basically you get to use your, you access your vault, and you can put items in and take stuff out. The recharge is 100 silver, and for that reason alone, I didn't choose it. But these spells are available to you at all times, so if you ever want to rub a spell out to make room for the Magic Cabinet, you can. But like I said, you only have 3 at the start of the game. So to me, Magic Cabinet is more of a mid to late game spell for when you start to accumulate a lot of items. So I'm not worried about Magic Cabinet right now. So what I did was I gave her Armor of Heaven. So Armor of Heaven is a combat one. Let's see, what's that? That's a 50 silver. Combat. And then what it does is you get a +3 bonus to one member's armor. So +3 bonus armor for length of battle. And that can be pretty handy, I think. So, so again, she's druidish. Your classic, I can speak to animals. I got the wolf spirit I can harness, you know, because I'm in touch with nature, and I can buff you with armor. So your classic buffing character. And then Lord Pt1, we're going to give the Ice Bolt, the combat, the Unfailing Strike, combat, and Poison Stream, combat. He's going to be your glass cannon type of character. So I don't know how much you're going to care about watching me write all this stuff in, but you basically got the gist. I need to take that party information from the book, and I need to fill in my sheet, right? I already told you what I'm going to do for spells. And then just to let you see real quick, an ice combat commits a block of ice and make an immediate attack with a fighting score of 8 against any opponent. So remember, Lord Pt1 only has a fight of 1, but for purposes of combat in this spells cast, his fight becomes 8. So now you're going to get to roll 8 dice. That's more powerful than your paladin-ish character, Sar Jessica Dane, right? Very powerful spell. But the one I actually like the most of all of these is the Poison Stream. So you make 2 attacks with a fighting score of 5 against 2 different opponents. So I thought that was pretty neat. And then this last one, a Pillar of Energy sizzles into a single foe, so I can just choose an opponent and they just lose 3 health. And that's really good. Like if you got that opponent, you have to roll an exact 6 to hit because he's got really high armor. What a great way to whittle down his health, right? So those are the 3 spells I'm going to give him. I'm going to go ahead and end this video, get it uploaded. I'm going to, in between videos, write all this information down so that way we're ready to start. And then on the next video, we will start on section 1, right there. So thank you, as always, and stay healthy and safe, and as always, stay awesome.